Today is May 3rd, 2013. We are at the Peoria, Illinois American Legion interviewing Lois Hamilton Zaremba. Lois was born April 29th, 1957 in Peoria, Illinois. I am Cheryl Walker, and I am from the state of Illinois, Secretary of State, State Library, and I will be interviewing Lois. Rose Labrita
Good enough.
will be the court reporter transcribing today. Lois, for the record, could you state your age, your highest rank, and the branch of service that you served in?
Age is 56. Highest rank is Master Sergeant. What was the last question?
Branch of service.
And branch of service, Air Force / Air National Guard.
Okay, and can you tell us what years, service dates you were, what years you were in service?
September of 81 through, I believe, November 07.
Okay. And were you drafted or
No, I enlisted.
enlisted? Okay. And what wars or occupations did you serve in, if any?
When I enlisted, I was the first bomb builder, female built bomb builder at the Air National Guard. And, you know, with being around all the guys, you know, I really had to prove myself that I'm not there to ask favors or anything. I did my part. And then I kind of got bored with that. We had OA-37 aircraft at that time, which were like little dragonflies, per se. And then kind of got bored with that, and I went to become the DCM Commander's Secretary, which is Deputy Commander of Maintenance, Aircraft Maintenance. And I did that for a while. Then I went to Aircraft Maintenance Training. Then from there I went to Plans and Programs, which is like a logistics. Then I went to Job Control, which is a mock maintenance operations center. Control Center, sorry, Maintenance Operation Control Center. And then I went to being engine manager, the aircraft engine manager. And then went to Plans and Scheduling, aircraft maintenance plans and scheduling, where I ensured that all of the maintenance was complete on the aircraft to keep them safe and flyable. And I served in the Operation Enduring Freedom, and then Iraqi Freedom, and then the War on Terrorism. I think that's also kind of like the last step.
Okay. When you joined the Air National Guard, did you have to take basic?
Yes. And I did my tech school at Peoria, there at the base. I did that until just doing weekends for about, let's see, I've been 18 years, so 18 years. 18. I got to do the calculation. 18 minus, I'm going to say for 9 or 10 years, and then I became a full-time technician, which is I'm out there Monday through Friday as well, just like active duty, or like a post carrier or a mail carrier. So I was paid by the federal during the week. So I have 18 years full-time as an air technician with the Air National Guard, which is a branch off the Air Force.
And you're still working out there?
No, ma'am. I medically retired.
Okay. Okay. So you had quite a few jobs out there.
Oh, yes.
Okay. When you were activated for Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, and War on Terrorism, um, what were your duties for those?
The same as if I was back here at home. So it was no um, front lines. It was kind of like in the back. We were stationed at close to Minhad Air Force Base. What's the richest country over there? Starts with a D. It was just in the news. The tallest building in the world is there. Dubai.
Dubai.
Thank you, Dubai. So we were close to Dubai, and we weren't at the front lines, but we did do missions. Flew missions. We were the first aircraft to land in the Baghdad airport once all this started happening, and we also flew some important celebrity people in and out, like news anchor Brian Williams. Our aircraft took him over there to do some interview work, and they transported millions of dollars of American money to help the Iraqis, when all this started, to help them. But we did a lot of missions like that.
You said that when you joined in 81 that you had to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How did you have to prove yourself?
That I could do the work myself. That I went through all of the what they call CDCs, course development courses, or CDCs, and I was able to do the job without any supervision, and that's ensure that the safety of building the bombs. I mean, we just used Willie Peds, white phosphorus, for the training bombs for our Dragonflies, OA-37s, and then linked up ammo because the aircraft also shot a minigun, 7.62, and doing all the paperwork and ensuring that the bobtails, which is the vehicle that transported the trailer, which had the ammo and bombs on it, had to ensure that I knew all what I was doing there, and the placards, and let's see what else. I got expert marksmanship. But anyway, for the job, it was just I had to prove to the guys that I was able to do that, and I done a good job. Because they kind of looked at me and thinking, well, she's a female. But then those days are over. I mean, because my chief, my boss, he didn't think I should be there. I should be home with my kids. And so that was another way I had to prove to him that I could do the job. And I made rank quickly. I think when I left the weapons, munitions area, I think I was already a staff sergeant when I left. Or, excuse me, when I moved to a different position.
So was it difficult to prove yourself?
At first, yeah.
Were there a lot of women in the National Guard at that time? Or the Air Guard?
There were no women in the weapons, but there were women in the Air National Guard. The ratio, probably one female to every 5 guys, I would guess. So there was a balance, somewhat.
So when you were over in Operation Enduring Freedom, and the other ones, Iraqi Freedom, War on Terrorism, were you still in weapons at that time?
No, ma'am. I was aircraft maintenance, plans, and scheduling.
Okay. So still you had quite an important...
Oh, absolutely. To ensure that the engines and aircraft were being maintained, making sure that the inspections were done on them, and then I ensured that if they were need repaired, that I made sure that the right specialist got to them in a timely manner. because we had missions to meet and had to get the aircraft up in FMC status, which is fully mission capable. And sometimes we had to wait on parts, and then they were partially mission capable, but they still could fly certain missions at that time.
So you were constantly trying to prove.
Yes, even at that point, yes. Because when I would come there I had schooling on the plans and scheduling, and I think I got excellent or up there in the top. Some of the higher rankings, they kind of looked at me, and it just seems like I had no credibility, even though what I was saying, everything for my recommendations, I could prove it on paper how it worked out, but then they were just wanting to do things their way. So I was there, okay, well, I had to just kind of just do as I'm told and just keep my mouth shut.
So was that frustrating to you?
Oh, absolutely. I went to our commander at the time, who was in charge of that Minhad Air Force Base, and he was from my base, and so I felt that I could go and talk to him, and I gave him my scenario, and it was depressing me quite a bit that these seniors and chief master sergeants were just kind of overriding, not even listening to my recommendations, and I got depressed, and I felt like, well, what am I doing here? And he did not lend a helping hand or say, well, why don't we have a meeting and sit down? You can tell your recommendations while I'm there, and then we can go from there. But he didn't do any of that. He just said, well, I'm sorry, but they're just running their shop the way that they feel best. So, yeah, it was very frustrating.
So was that the whole time that you were in the military? Or did you think it got better?
In some areas, I felt my credibility was recognized and respected, and that was in the logistics area. And even the other shops who I'd have meetings to show them how they need to set up their shops when we go to war or when we're at peace. And I give them an analogy of it's like packing for a camping trip or just packing for a hotel room. You need a lot more items for camping, and you don't need as many for the hotel room. So that's how they were. And they really liked that because that was a good analogy on how they should pack. They just kept that in mind. Well, we're packing for camping, so we will need, the tents, the sleeping bags, and all that, whereas versus the hotel room. So I think that job, plans and programs, or excuse me, plans and programs. Yes, plans and programs was probably the one, as well as I can say engine manager, because both areas they respected me in the plans and programs, and the engine supervisor for the shop, he listened quite a bit to what I had to say and how to schedule certain items on the engines. But the other areas, no, the respect, and I become frustrated as to with my recommendations, and I was very multitasked back then. I could do 5 things at once, no problems. And then just coming back from Minhad, I became my cognitive skills were just not the same. So then I went to the doctor and found out that I have multiple sclerosis. And so they're say that it's service connected because I didn't have any of those symptoms before I went over. So I was medically discharged honorably from the technician side as well as the military side.
So when you were over in Dubai?
Well, in Minhad.
Minhad, okay. That's when you felt your skills were faltering a little.
Yes.
And did you go to a military doctor at that time?
No, because I thought it was my depression. and my frustration, not knowing that, and maybe it contributed to, because they don't know why people get MS. Um, and maybe that's what they're contributed to with the elements there, and maybe with my depression and my frustration and stress and missing the family, and I mean all combined. I think that had an influence on it as well. But no, they did not check me out there because I thought it was due to the frustration and depression.
On the on terrorism, where were you stationed at for that?
The same. It was just as well when we were over there, the operations changed names as it became.
Okay. How through the years from 81 to 07, did you see an increase in numbers of women joining?
Yes, I did.
And did you think that helped how women were treated in the service?
There again, it depended on their supervisor. If you had an old school supervisor, no, I mean they were still kind of less respected. But then you have a very outspoken young lady or a lady that joined, and she knew how to handle herself. Then she went places because she didn't take any of the disrespect. And then they proved themselves that way, but I think they were more intimidated by that. I just wanted to do my job and just wanted the respect. And I would feel that would have came to me automatically with my how I presented myself and presented the options and recommendations for the job I was holding.
What made you decide to join the military?
Well, I had 4 children, and I thought my husband at the time was not really fulfilling his part as being a responsible parent. So I thought, what am I doing with my life? And I thought, I need to do something where my kids will be proud of me, and I need to do something for myself. So that's when I thought, well, how about the military? And that's how it all started. I wanted my legacy, I wanted them to know that I served my country and that they could be proud of me.
How old were your children when you were activated?
The youngest was 6 months. It just broke my heart. So there was 6 months, and then let's see, and then 2, and then let's see, 75, and then 6 and 7. So 7, yeah, 6 months, 2, 6 and 7.
So they were young.
Yes, yeah.
And how long were you activated for?
6 weeks at that time for basic training. And then I got to come back, but then the littlest one, the 6-month-old, she didn't really recognize me, but it took a few days. Then she remembered. But it was 6 weeks, and then I did my training at the Peoria at home station. But then I also had to leave. We had our 2-week trainings, and with the positions that I was in, I had to go to Germany, to Panama, and do these other things for different missions as well.
What was the longest time you were?
6 months.
6 months.
And that was it over in Minhad.
And how did you stay in contact with them?
Well, by mail, obviously, and then they provided cell phones, and so we were able to sign up and go to this one tent and use cell phones and call. But since the time difference, it was hard to call them because we were awake working during the day when they were sleeping, and vice versa. So you had to time it just right to try to call them and make sure that they were awake. But anyway, there was times I wasn't able to talk to them because of the time difference, or they were busy, or didn't know I was going to call, because how do you tell them you're going to call? I did at times had a downtime, and I would send instant messages um, to see if anybody was out there that I could just kind of say, "Hey, I'm still alive. I'm doing okay." Da da da. And there was a few times I did my mom, and because she would wait up to like around midnight to see if she could get a hold of me.
So that was nice
Yeah,
to
that
have
was nice.
that instant contact.
Absolutely, yes. And my birthday, I was over there during my birthday time, and cousins and sisters, they would send over. My one sister made me a popcorn birthday cake because they knew that that wouldn't go bad, traveling as far as it did, and it just made my day. And then my little niece, she was like 6 at the time. She, my sister sent me a little thing that she sang, "You Are My Sunshine." So every day I would play that, and it would just, kind of brighten up my day. Cousin would send me boxes and boxes of kitchen cooked potato chips, which is very, everybody loved kitchen cooked. So that was nice when I received items like that. And then my daughter, she sent me some stuff to wear a tiara, and yeah, I got that. And then we had a little place where we could kind of unwind a little bit. So I wore my tiara and smoked a cigar, um, and then she drew me some pictures and sent them. And I mean, she's very artistic. Um, but other than that, that's how I communicated by mail and a little instant messaging and cell phone.
Did you have a lot of downtime when you were stationed over there?
Not really. Um, it was probably 10 to 12-hour days, sometimes longer. So you got up before the birds did. No, they didn't have birds. It was all desert. You got up before the snakes did. How's that? Uh, and then we went to the chow hall, and it's always hot, the showers. The hot water was cooler than the cold water. Oh my gosh, it was so hot over there. And the water was like whirlpool, 106 degrees because they tested. It was because they had them in the white containers, and they didn't have any shade over uh, the barrels it was in. I'm going to call it barrels. And so it's just sitting in that hot sun. Your coolest shower was in the morning, so the water was able to cool off during the night. So, sorry. And and then, but when you got home from work, I mean, got back to the camp sleeping area, uh, the sun had beat down on that, and it was very hot to try and take a shower. And so you tried to use the cold water, and sometimes that didn't even help either. But the water was hot. It was miserable.
So during the day it was very hot. What about the evenings?
Evenings was still very warm.
It was.
Yeah, probably still in the 90s. They did try to make our sleeping quarters air conditioned, as long as we maintained uh, the door on our tents to make sure that it was shut all the time. But it would get hot. And then we had a the worst storm that they had ever seen over there when we were over there, where the wind and the rain was so hard coming down. Our tents got flooded. The rain was coming down sideways. And someone said that that storm, I guess some of our troops were up in Baghdad area. And because of that storm, it revealed some landmines that they were right in front of them. And they were waiting until the storm kind of ceased, and then they found the landmines. So that was like a blessing from above that was protecting our troops at that time. It was just amazing.
What um you said that you transported a lot of famous people, things like this. Did you have any entertainers stay and entertain you or
Oh,
any?
um, entertain us. There were a few, and I can't remember them though. There were some comedians that came over. I think there had cheerleaders that came over, from the football teams. Oh, I wish I could remember them all, but because of my job, sometimes was working, I was unable to go to the functions. But I can't recall many of them. I did, however, because I love Robin Williams, I did send via message or internet. I sent a message requesting his presence at Minhad to entertain the troops. So, of course, he shows up after I'm gone. But I don't know if my writing, said, yeah, we can do that. I don't know. But I did request it, and because I wanted to see him so bad. He's just a really funny guy.
Did you get to go out in the civilian area?
Yes, we were able to go to Dubai. I think we had one day off a week, and so we went there, and I spent lots of money.
You did?
Yeah. And my husband, because he was my power of attorney for my bills at home, and he was kind of sent me a text or email and asking what was going on, and I said, well, I'm just buying some gifts. But anyway, so we did go to Dubai. We had our dress code that we had to do. We had to stay in groups. And we had to make sure that we did not become too verbal females because of how females are over there. But the dress code was probably the most important. You weren't supposed to reveal. Had to be conservative and high button shirts and either capris or pants. And even though it was hot, but we had to stay dressed like that if we were going to town. Well, even on base, we couldn't really be flashing and all that stuff. But Dubai was very interesting. I got to smoke from a hookah at a restaurant. Bought some jewelry, some Asian rugs. So the times in town, they were nice.
And how did you get things shipped back?
Well, I had connections in the supply system, so I was able to get a couple trunks. Yeah, and then I started mailing things back a little bit too. Prior to that, or when I went to the rug place, they mailed them to my home, so I didn't have to carry those back.
Was it expensive?
Well, how about if I just tell you how much I spent?
You don't have to do that.
Okay. Between the jewelry and the, gold was cheap over there.
Was it?
Yes. So I was able to get some items that are.
Well, that was nice.
Yes, it was.
That was nice.
But the rugs, I need to get them insured. But I thought, why not? I won't be able to buy these in the U.S. for what I'm getting them here.
Now, did you find public transportation?
No, we provided. We had a sign-up sheet at the base, and they were going to take vanfuls. So, fill up a 12-passenger van, drop off a certain point, pick up at a certain point and a certain time.
Was it easy to communicate with the civilians?
Well, we didn't really talk to civilians per se, but we did talk to the store owners when we were in there finagling to get a good price. Because they really didn't talk to us, or they just kind of looked at us like, why are you? I mean, they knew what was going on, the conflict, and I don't think they really wanted us there. And then so the times of going to Dubai into the town, it started being less and less because of some problems that was occurring. And there was a couple terrorists, or I don't think they were really terrorists, but they tried to get onto our base and our MPs. And sure they didn't. So after that incident, they didn't let us go into town as much.
Was there any type of food that you ate over there that you just dearly loved?
Didn't really eat much in town. They told us, be careful of what you ate or drank. But on our base, we had just our normal American food. And they contracted that out to the towns around to help with our people to serve the food and prepare it.
Dubai has a large university over there. And did you ever walk around the campus over there?
No,
No.
no. I didn't. The only thing that we were doing is just doing the shopping, going around. I don't know of too many that would go outside of that because we were limited as to where we could go.
And did they tell you what shops to shop in? And
No, they just said, here's a good area. Just check this. I mean, it's just shop after shop after shop, as if you're going down a Branson, with all the shops all in a line or someplace like that. Oh, yeah.
You hear of a lot of the schools and a lot of different organizations writing letters to the soldiers and sending care packages. You hear of churches saving little bars of soap or little things of deodorant. Were you ever a recipient of those kind of things?
Yes. Yes. And we had to work out a tent instead of offices. And as a matter of fact, they came daily, and we would have little like apartment-sized refrigerators that we could put all our stuff in. But yes, toiletry items, gum, cards, games, balls. I mean, food. Ones that were able to make it here without being demolished. Sodas. Oh yeah, we were recipients, and the letters from the kids from the schools, there would be a bunch of letters in each of the boxes that we received, and they would be saying, "Dear soldier, thank you for serving our country. Thank you for keeping us free." And there was just a lot of that, so we would put those on on the refrigerator with a magnet so that we could see how, the kids that young supporting us and knowing what was going on.
Did you ever stay in contact with any of them?
No, because the ones that I recall receiving just had their name on it. I don't know where it came from.
Okay. Lois, you are at the age that you saw the end of Vietnam. You might have been a little young to see the end of Vietnam, but you might have remembered hearing about it. And you might have seen some of your friends' older brothers or maybe uncles coming home. Compared to those soldiers that you might have known about or even heard on the news about, compared to them, to you coming home from Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom and the others, how do you feel you were treated?
By the civilian world?
Yes.
I feel that they were, from what I've watched on TV and for what I experienced, there was more support for our involvement during this conflict era than what Vietnam veterans went through. The USO, the American Legion, the VFW, all of these different organizations that deal with veterans, if they knew a big group was coming home, they would ensure that they were there to meet them, thank them, and just honor them. And we had that a few stops that when we were returning, and it was a very, very good feeling. And the media, they were there and not putting us down, but there to support why we were there. We weren't going on our own. We were, ordered to go there. So, so yes, the difference between the two, I feel that the U.S. is more behind our involvement, the people that were involved with it, than the Vietnam.
How, if 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 one of your children came to you today and said, and maybe they have said, "Mom, I'd like to join the service."
My oldest son did. He joined the Air Guard. He went to Japan for, I think, a month for some training and something. He really enjoyed it. But there was no advancement in his realm of the career that he chose. So he just did his time. I think he done 6 years, and then he got out because there was no advancement. If there was advancement where he could make more rank, then he would have stayed in, but there wasn't.
Do you feel that children today, how can we teach them American history, about military, our involvement? How can we do a better job?
Oh,
Or
wow.
are we doing a job that is accurate?
As far as the education in schools,
In history, American history, U.S. history.
I would say that when they hear the news, if they watch the news, and see especially what in '03, where we did what do you call it, bomb, when they did the big bombing. I can't remember. I'm sorry. That's part of the MS. My memory
That's okay.
is just.
That's okay.
George Bush was in the presidency, but anyway, something awe. Anyway, so when they see that, and then when the children saw that, and then they see what was going on, they see the soldiers coming back, they see how they're treated and respected, and I think that I think with this conflict in this era, I think that the media was more involved into covering the story as it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the children learned better by the media and what the interviews with soldiers coming back and the veterans, and seeing how they came back with the limbs missing and the disfigurations. And when they tell about that, that's what they signed up for, and they knew the possibility would happen. I think that they learn more from this collectively, veterans collectively, that their response taught them more than what the school books can. And the media coverage, yes. I think that they understand and they know what was going on and how it affected the United States and their soldiers.
You are the commander of one of the American Legion posts.
Yes.
Are you involved in any other veteran organizations?
At this time, I am not. With grandkids, my failing health parents, however I put that, and my own schedule, I am not. But things within the American Legion, like with Special Olympics, I get involved with that. And we have flag burning ceremonies. We do things for the Memorial Day, Veterans Day. We are scheduled to go out and put flags in the cemeteries on May 20th to recognize Veterans Day. And we'll provide a lunch afterwards for anyone that wants to come up on the 27th to the little park in Grimfield. So within the organization, I've been trying to do a lot more. But other organizations, I don't think I would have time for that. And maybe in time I will, but right now that keeps me pretty busy.
Okay. Well, Lois, what I'd like to do is take this time to thank you for the time that you served our country and what a wonderful job you did.
Thank you.
And I would also like to thank you for the time you've given me and today and for sharing your story with me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.